All right, well, Craig's here.
Welcome to the Ben Shapiro Show, Episode 3. Today joining me will be speaker James Barry and Josh Klebnick. Introduce yourself and let's get started.
Greetings, listeners, viewers, and it's a pleasure to be here. Let me just say that.
Glad.
Greetings
Josh.
also to everyone at home. I kind of co-host this. Hello.
Today's main topic will probably be a little bit controversial and also one of the most things I'm very much so known for. What's y'all's views on opinion on genders? Because I see the whole gender things as there's only two, but then you can be whatever you want nowadays with the individual liberties of the people. But there's only scientifically two genders.
Personally, I think that that's an issue that should be resolved strictly by science. It shouldn't be a social issue. If you're either one or the other, then science will show that you're either one or the other. There is more than two genders, then science will show that, hey, there's more than two genders, and then that way, that's when they should be said to be genders. Oh, I want to create being a helicopter. Oh, that's a gender now. And that's just views on it.
Scientifically, there are three genders. What are the one where you're born with both of the private parts? But that is it. There could possibly there's three genders, but yeah.
So I think three should be recognized as there is three, but I think that it should be strictly said by science.
You know what frustrates me?
While yes, you can say that there's three genders, it's a genetic issue where you are born with both body parts, and it's most commonly found in females. And it's majority in other animals of other species. It's not normally found in human beings. So if you want to say that there's three genders, you have to be talking about something like a dog or a hyena. But whenever we look at human biology and human science and everything that has to go on with the human body process, there are only two genders in biology and every single other type of science, chemistry, physical science even, proves this and backs it up. So yes, you can say that there are three genders, but that's only when you're talking about another species.
Okay, well, one of the main things that frustrate me are the people that say, "I'm non-binary. I'm not even a gender. Call me non-binary. If you call me a she or a he, you are the worst person to ever live, and I want to kill you." Like that, I get that on a daily basis online, and it's very frustrating because if I see that you look like a female and you have female characteristics, I'm going to call you a she. It is just inevitable, and I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but get over yourself. Facts do not care about your feelings.
As me personally, somebody who wants to run for public office in real life, the way I view that stuff is, yes, I may agree with it, but I won't disrespect you and go against what you wish.
They shouldn't get mad at an accident.
Well, no, I get what you're saying, that like if you're one or the other, that's what you are. But if somebody wants to be respected as something else, as long as it's not completely silly, I would respect what they say and what they ask their pronouns to be. Even though I may not agree with it personally. And that's just kind of how I view.
And honestly, it's just the ones that get mad at you for accidentally gendering. Like, sure, you can be a transgender. I don't care. That's one of the main things I don't care about. Sexuality, I don't care. But genders, like, you can't get mad at being called a he or she. It's just, it's frustrating.
I agree. It shouldn't be you have to, but I think as me personally, I'll if it's like, oh, I'm non-binary, I'll respect it.
Exactly.
That's just me.
I'll respect it because
I don't want to be forced.
Exactly. We respect it, but you don't. Yeah.
I truly stick with the saying, if you give me respect, I will respect you in return. So if you shove your sexuality and your quote unquote gender down my throat, I'm gonna do whatever I can to piss you the fuck off. And I'm not
Yep.
joking when I say that, because someone that I'm friends with for a very long time, Chief Justice
Oh,
now,
yeah.
we usually go at each other because apparently I do something wrong, and then I'm clearly in the wrong for it or whatever. But here's the thing: before she was in her political spot and everything, when we were younger, she would constantly try and shove it down my throat. And I get it. I messed up a couple of times. Maybe sometimes were on purpose. Sometimes it wasn't. But I'm just saying, you respect me, I'll respect you. If you want to be successful in life, and if you're gay and everything, go do that. I will gladly support your opinions and everything. But if you start saying that I cannot be successful because I am gay, that's where the line is crossed, and that's where
It's
you are becoming a degenerate and you need to be re-educated.
the people that make their sexuality and their gender their personality that annoy me. It's not a personality. Who cares what you sleep with in bed? Who cares that you think you don't have a dick or do have a dick? It's just, who cares?
Right. Yeah. I think it's your respect is earned. It's not given, and that's kind of what I live.
Like, and then they're like, "Oh, you're misgendering me. I'm gonna get you in trouble." Then I can say it's against my religion. And that's the beauty of America. Is the card you can always pull in America is it's against my religion. Just think about that. Like, I've seen people that don't have to stand at my school because it's against the religion. For the Pledge of Allegiance, they're like, "Oh, nope, against my religion." Jehovah Witness, like, bruh.
Which I think that's wrong. You stand for your country. And
So,
obviously, we can't force people to do anything because it's their freedom to do that because that's like a version of their freedom, but it is very disrespectful to both our flag and to the country that we live in. So
so how does it?
we can't
What is
force people to
this?
do it, but I wish everybody did. Is more how I view that.
Okay, what does the statement to both of you mean? My country is the best in the world.
I if you a lot of people believe that their country is the best in the world, and
Wow.
for
Okay.
if
Never mind. I
it's
thought my
America,
mic wasn't working. My
I
bad.
I would agree with that. I think America personally is the greatest country, but some people may think that Germany is the greatest country. In that case, it's their right to think that because everybody has different opinion and everybody has the right to
I don't
think.
personally believe that right now my country is the greatest country in the world. I believe that several generations ago it was the greatest country. All right? Because it's all a social game. All right?
No, I think I agree. I think it is all very much social, and I think that the more that we look at political parties in the modern day, each political party focuses on different. So, for example, I think that the left
The
side
the,
is much more
the
focused on social issues, while the right side is much more economical. And I think that the left side
no, that's not what
pushes.
I'm saying.
Well, I get what you're saying with like the social issues, but I think that they're becoming more of an issue because one side's pushing it over the other.
The reason why I think it's a social issue is because several generations ago, you would have 16, 15, 14-year-olds lying about their age so they could go defend their country. All right, that
Hell
happened
yeah.
in World War One, World War Two. All right, now look at us.
Now
We're
they're too scared
complaining.
when they're 30 years old.
We're too scared to, uh, like peacefully protest because we're scared of quote unquote police brutality.
Which I think is wrong, and I personally don't. I obviously there's the bad police officers that shouldn't deserve a job, but at the same time, I feel like there's much more good officers than bad officers, and that should be recognized. So I think
Yeah.
police brutality has happened before because I mean we've seen instances of it that have been caught on camera. But I
Yes,
think
we've seen
people make much more big of a deal of it than it actually is.
the
So
best.
actually, there's a debate happening in public right now that I'd like to bring up to get your guys' opinion just before, real quick. Okay, so apparently there's a debate over the verses in the Bible over homosexuality. Seeing as we all the three of us are very stern Christians, what are your views on this?
As a
I think
Roman
that
Catholic, I'm sorry, President pro tempore, but as a Roman Catholic, and since Roman Catholics have the first description, like the inscription of the Bible, because Catholicism is the first religion Christ deemed a Christian,
uh, your mic broke.
which was written by Hebrews, by the Islams, and Jews. That is what goes. So people from the Old Testament, when they wrote a man lying with another man is abomination, that still holds to this day. Homosexuality is a sin, and there's no denying that.
I can agree. So what the whole thing is, what the whole homosexuality thing is, okay, so this is the most controversial thing in my Christianity view. Is I believe as a Christian, or I believe,
Yeah,
oh
you're a
my God,
dumbass. Shut
get
up.
him out, get the homosexual,
Yeah,
get
you're
the
wrong.
homosexual out of here. Dude, why can he join?
Stop speaking.
Stop inviting him. Stop inviting him. We heckler, get the heckler out of here. Okay, with homosexuality, I believe it's a God-given right to be homosexual. Honestly, out of all the views and all the misconstrued views, I believe God gives you the right to be homosexual. Even if it's a sin, God gives you the right to the sin. So for the people to say that God's against gay people, I don't see that. I don't see that as purposeful, and I don't see that as okay. I think God, even though they're homosexual, still loves that person. And out of all the sins, who cares who you sleep with? Why would God, out of all the sins, care about something like that? And sure, it's a sin. Sure, it's a very big sin. It's a very big sin. But why would that damn you to hell? And that's the issue I have.
Because in the Bible, it discreetly says it is abomination to lay with another man.
So
And
actually, in the Bible, in the King James version, or I think it was the VE, it says it is illegal for man to lay with boy, but that's debatable.
and that was translated in 1947, nearly 1900 years after the original Bible was quoted. Don't you think that we would have other translations by then at that point? And plus, another huge thing that people don't realize is that there's not just two translations of the Bible, right? It doesn't just go from Latin to English like many people assume it does. It goes from Jewish to Hebrew
True.
to Islam. No, not Islam, but Latin, and then to English. All right, so people can say that there's been many translations, and that could where the fault can lay. But if you're a true Christian and you will fight for God. You will not deny the fact that in the original context of the Bible, it says, if a man lays with another man, it is abomination. All right. And plus, the Germans are the ones that changed the translation. And
Hey, okay. So what this whole thing is, we can agree that being gay is a sin, like a lot of other sins. It is, but this is where it all lies into the tale of every sin is equal. In God's eyes, every sin is equal, so you cannot put one above the other. So right now, even though you're not sinning right now, a sin you can do tomorrow is as equal as homosexuality. And I don't care. And this is just my view on the Bible, as I'm a non-denominational Christian. I think that all sins are equal, because I'm not okay with the whole narrative that as like people we know. Okay, I'm gonna say example Femboy Parker. Okay, You can't say his life is more of a sin than somebody murdering somebody or somebody lying. His is legit harmless compared to murdering. Like, his is legit harmless compared to abortion. Like, it's ridiculous, honestly, and the whole narrative of that.
Moving on with the LGBTQ, but moving away from religion, is the fact that they think they are special when they're just normal human beings just attracted to the same gender that they are. Sure, you may think you are special, but at the end of the day, you are not. You're just a normal human being who just has an attraction to the same gender as you.
Then why does it matter if they're just normal? Like, why spite on them? Why be spiteful?
Because it matters for the sake of entering heaven. Even if people say they don't want to enter heaven, I think as a bet, wouldn't you bet you would be happier in heaven than in eternal hell? Answer me that.
I don't have to worry about that. I'm going to heaven no matter what. I'm saved. I recognize, and I'm saved.
You can't just say you're saved. You have to constantly repent to Christ. You have to do so much to sacrifice yourself to Christ so you can be allowed into the kingdom of God. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm redeemed. I am saved, Lord. Take me to your kingdom." That it doesn't work like that. Christ sacrificed himself, so we have to sacrifice a part of our lives for him.
That's where tithes come in, and that's where daily scripture comes in, and that's where repenting comes in. I'm saved, and I repent every day for my sins. And that when I wake up in the morning, I say, "God, I know I've sinned. Please forgive me." All this, etc. But it just the whole stanza and the whole narrative that one sin is worse than the other is ridiculous.
I'm not saying that that one sin is greater than another. I'm pointing out the fact that many people are blinded by a false translation of the Bible. Did you know that the German language has no connection to Latin or Hebrew or anything? The closest relation that German has is English, all right? So the latest translation of the Bible could be German. And since words are constantly mixed up in German, so like there are some words in English that would mean another noun in German. There could have been a slip up in the translation, and then people want to use that as the foundation of, oh, it is okay to be a homosexual because the Bible says it is abomination for a man to lie with a boy. While I agree with that statement that it is an abomination to lay with a boy as a grown adult, you cannot deny the fact that in the original translation of the Bible, it says it is abomination to lay with a man if you are a man.
My grandpa speaks Hebrew, and tomorrow I'll get an official statement from his Hebrew Bible. And that is what I'll do as a follow-up to this argument. But I think this was a very productive, honestly, I like debate. But, one thing I'll bring up, and let's see your guys' view on this, is I see no problem and no foul in this. Men wearing women's clothing and makeup.
I think that I'll start with this one. If a man wants to dress however they want to dress, there's no rule book for how somebody should dress. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but that's saying somebody else can't because I don't. So if somebody decides to dress a different way than I think that a woman should dress, that's on them. That's not my decision, nor is it my life. I'm not going to try to interfere with your life, as it doesn't matter to me or my job at all. Obviously, if I run for public office and win, my job would be to help the American people, but that's not something that American people need help with. It's their own personal decision. Nobody's getting hurt. And yeah, as long as
There's a
nobody's
third
getting
person
hurt.
I'd like to bring in on this, as long as they are super serious. Femboy Parker, would you like to join in on this conversation? Are you going to be serious? Hold on. Before we invite him, will you be serious and calm and collected?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go. Good to have you here. So what's your whole views on, and we can also summarize the last conversation, the whole gay thing. But I do not want that to be a debate. I just want your statement. Please go ahead and go.
I wasn't paying attention. What? What's the question?
About the homosexuality and dresses. I guess those are the two things.
Do what you want. Love is love. People shouldn't be discriminated against for it. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. With the
Go.
recent movements of the LGBTQ plus community moving to make pedophilia and rape a part of
Okay. No.
community,
The
does
majority of
that still
people
fall
do
in
not
line with love
believe
is
that.
love?
That is not true. The majority of people in the LGBTQ community do not believe that. There's some
You'd be
stupid
surprised.
people that believe that. It is wrong.
You would honestly be surprised.
It's
I know
a
too many people that
loud minority. Dumb
Oh.
people
And
on Twitter that are pedophiles and want to be
I think
accepted
that's
who are
another
stupid and
issue.
dumb.
I think that's another issue with our media system that kind of pertains to this as well. Is it's not the majority of people that are getting the attention from the media; it's the minority, and so it makes it seem like that's what everybody thinks and that's what everybody wants. But in reality, it's just a minority of people saying one thing.
And that just shows how bad the
saying something
media
different.
actually is. Like, media either misconstrues the left or misconstrues the right. Like, it doesn't represent the people at all.
Exactly, and I think that's an issue that should be fixed throughout the media.
That's why we should censor all media.
I feel like that's
That's an
necessarily
infringement on
right.
right. That's an
Oh, you're wrong.
yeah, I mean, maybe.
To be fair, the media establishments should be abolished as they are today.
Honestly, the only media that should be
Certain ones
allowed
should be.
is from the White House, honestly. Think about that. All the news came from the White House and directly from the White House and Congress. Like, that'd be such a perfect system. No.
The best system
Like,
ever would be no government.
Okay, Mr. Monarchism.
Did you just call me a constitutional monarchist?
I mean, that's a compliment to you, I thought.
No, I'm an anarcho-capitalist.
Whoops. Whoopsies, man. I didn't mean to insult you, man.
No, it's Matt. It's all good, man. Anyways, in fact, I would like to, if it's okay with you, former president. I would like to go back onto economics.
So I might be leaving soon, so you guys can take over the show for the rest of it.
Oh man. Anyways,
dang, am I right?
President pro tempore, whatever you pronounce it.
Oh,
Josh, would you like to discuss economics?
sure.
Alrighty.
What could go wrong with that?
The number one problem in America at the moment is its mixed economy and the rise of extreme leftist socialism. If we look at other nations in the world, like Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, even Nazi Germany, as an example, all have some form of socialism or communism in their effective place.
Oh, all right. I see what you're saying. I think, for me personally, I think the market.
All right, y'all. That's all from me. I'll see you guys later.
All right. I feel like that the market should be able to fluctuate back and forth without the government butting in all the time. I think if you're able to run the market with as little interference as possible. I think that's what would benefit.
Of having free market capitalism, the economy is going to fluctuate no matter what. And if the government intervenes on it, it's just going to eventually make it worse and worse and worse. And then the dollar bill is going to be nothing because the government basically controls the means of production at that point. Even though, yes, there may be
Exactly.
some quote unquote economical freedom, corporations won't be allowed to hire who they want. They won't be allowed to trade with who they want. They won't be allowed to give certain spots to certain people. And whenever you're trying to formulate a functional society, corporations are supposed to be able to trade with who they want, hire who they need, and who they want in order for them to make a profit. And this is why I believe that the artist and the designer are more important than the businessman and the construction worker. Because the artist and the designer are the ones coming up with the ideas. They are like the CEO of a company. They are like Elon Musk, becoming like they're the ones designing the stuff that'll make a corporation great. And then you have the workers that are below them who will, yes, they will do what they need to do in order to control and benefit the company, which it could be argued as a socialistic value because they're controlling the production of that company. But they should not have that much power over the company, which is why I don't believe that workers' rights truly do exist, and which is why unions, which will and have been historically proven to destroy a company. Look at I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sorry, that's like a baseless claim, and I know how we all feel about that. But it has been historically proven that unions destroy workers. Look at coal mines, for example. There's one. There's a huge one right there. Coal mines. Whenever unions form on them, guess what happens? They go bankrupt. Yes. And that is a huge, huge, huge problem. All right?
I think I can agree with that. I think
the
that
best
it should
way
be run privately.
Yes, I believe that everything inside of the United States should be ran privately because
Well, I think some things should have a little bit of
Well,
like
hospitals.
non-private. Yeah, like
if you
because
if you
obviously
privately
need
own
government funding.
hospitals, and also if you privately own insurance and healthcare, your prices will be significantly hella lower by that than if it's government owned, because look how much we have invested into Medicaid. All right, that's just one system. Do we have anything invested in other systems to fluctuate the market for that? No, we don't. And that is why being invested into one type of healthcare and at that price, it's going to drive that healthcare price, and everything that you need for your health will go higher and higher until you can't pay it. And guess what? You're in debt.
Well, I mean,
I think
every
it's already the
medical
case that
system.
people can't pay their hospital bills. They're already way too high.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the
I
problem.
think
That's what happens when you invest your entire healthcare system into one type of healthcare instead of spreading it all across the market.
I could agree with that. I see what you're saying. Do that.
Can I sub in Henry Shloya for me to talk on this subject?
Sure.
Sure.
Hi there. It's me, Henry Shapiro, everyone's favorite. Just in general. So basically, for healthcare. So here's what I think should happen. Okay. So I think that while like a mixed sort of like fuckery that's going on, where the government has like a little wholesome private option, or not like private option, but like what we have right now, where the government just like vaguely subsidizes or covers some sort of systems, is a wee bit cringe, but also the fully privatized option is also extremely cringe. Like I think that the best option would be for the government to just overall have a single payer system where the hospital bills themselves are actually paid for by said government, and it's impossible for prices to go up Because one, there'd be market caps on how high it can go due to a public option, and two, it wouldn't affect the consumer at all because the government would be paying for it, and
Where's
it
the
would
government? Where would the government be getting this money from? Would it be from our taxes?
tax, dumbass. Where else would they go from?
Well, I don't know. We're in a fucking deficit right now, aren't we?
Here's what you do: you just cut the Department of Defense to like 400 billion, easy.
I mean, I'm okay with that at some extent.
I'm very much
Because
not
like
okay
a
with
400
that.
billion Department of Defense budget is more than enough. Because like number two, China has like what, like 150 billion.
Yeah, but you
Yes,
also have to
but
look
I
at
think
the
we use a
health.
lot.
2.6 times theirs. Like that's fine.
Okay,
True, but at
here's
the
the
same time,
thing.
we are also better trained and have better equipment with more money.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, Josh. However, the vast majority of the reason that the Department of Defense eats up so much money is the fact that it's like basically policing the world's oceans for free, you know. And I think that that's because of the Bretton Woods Treaty that was established in 1946, which said that the United States would be a arbiter of free trade and international like trade protection around the world. That's something that we should reform to be more beneficial to us, because that system at the time was actually meant to be harmful to the United States for the sole purpose of getting more nations to ally us instead of the Soviet Union. But as there is no Soviet Union, I think we should just make that more favorable towards ourselves, because the Bretton Woods Treaty since 1991 has actually been like a drag on the American economy.
Fair enough.
I see what you're saying. I just personally, with my views, I believe that a strong military and high military spending is more beneficial for America than low spending. And I think I've stated that and made it fairly clear. And I know that we've commonly disagreed on prices for that, which understandably. I just think that with the advancements in technology and the size of our military, high spending is necessary to keep it high.
Much of the Department of Defense budget is I think it's an estimate 150 billion a year could be dropped if we alter the Bretton Woods Treaty to make it so that the U.S. wouldn't arbitrate free trade and international trade protection, because policing the world's oceans is massively expensive. Like we could just right there. That would okay. Well, that would harm international relations. That wouldn't harm relations with the EU and NATO, which we already have pre-existing treaties on top of Bretton Woods with them. So I don't give a damn about the rest of the world to an extent. We have NAFTA, which would protect us from harming relations with Canada, and which already Nate about previously mentioned, but that would harm us with Mexico, or prevent us from harming relations with Mexico due to NAFTA. We have then if we also Bretton Woods too, that would mean that the U.S. would, as mentioned earlier, lose about $150 billion from the Department of Defense budget, and then that wouldn't even affect the overall quality of the U.S. military. That would just mean that other nations have to start picking up their own slack. And this is just nations that aren't in NATO. Like, this isn't mentioning the fact that nations that are within NATO are basically just throwing because they're not having the required amount of their defense budget. So I think that the military budget could very, very easily be lowered to 400 billion without sacrificing the quality of the military. And you have to consider the quality of the Navy would succumb. However, the Navy only needs to be such high quality because of Bretton Woods. If we don't need to protect everyone else's trade, we don't need as big of a Navy as we do. Then the fact that the Navy's now smaller, you can lower it even further. And then with all that excess money, so the $150 billion I mentioned by not protecting foreign trade, then you can shrink the Navy because it doesn't need to be big anymore. Then the Navy eats up $170 billion annually. So that's $50 billion drop. That's $200 billion. That's enough to do a shit load of stuff regarding healthcare without raising a single penny of taxes.
I see what you're saying. I understand that. I think that along with that, even if that were to be a possibility, I doubt that would ever really get far due to the current Senate status, because even if I voted no, that would be
On what? Withdrawing from Bretton Woods?
Yeah.
Bretton Woods is a international treaty. The president can issue everybody's room.
All right. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Uh, uh, James, what do you think about that?
I'm assuming it's younger siblings in law. I think. Yeah.
They're in the other room. So, what was the question?
What do you think about what Henry just said?
While I agree with lowering the defense budget to give more of the money to healthcare, I think that we need to start investing in other types of healthcare other than just Medicaid, because Medicaid is so expensive. Like, the reason why it's expensive is because we have so much invested into it and we have nothing else invested. If we invested into something else, the it would benefit the country as a whole, and that's how we could have a single payer healthcare system, is if we have multiple healthcare companies invested in by the United States government.
Yeah, well, that's vaguely similar to mine. Well, I didn't mention this earlier, but if I were like dictator of the United States, I would drop Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and I would make it all one massive system. Like call it whatever you want, like United States Healthcare, like UHC, or UHH, or no, USH, whatever. You can call it whatever you want, but I would make it one massive healthcare system. I would make it so that the vast majority of things are covered by the state themselves. I would make it so that pretty much like not like the research centers themselves, but most hospitals would be nationalized. Then once they're nationalized, you don't need to heavily regulate them, which that means that the rest of the non-nationalized part of the industry doesn't get burdened on by regulations. That means that the actual drug prescription industry, while some libertarians do say that nationalizing hospitals would reduce competition among scientists to make drugs, it wouldn't, because however they'd be competing to sell drugs to the government for said hospitals. So under my system, we would still have all the competition that drives the Western medicine that advances technology. We'd still have the number one military by a long shot. The Air Force, Marines, and Air Force would still be the best in the world. The Navy would still be number one, though it wouldn't be unnecessarily bloated. Taxes, I haven't even mentioned taxes, but corporate tax would be raised maybe 2 or 3 times over. From what they are in the sim at the moment. From real life, maybe only up 50%. Then with that, I would also lower tax significantly on the lower middle class, and I would raise them on the rich significantly. And that would effectively be enough to cover that entire healthcare plan. That would lower the DoD budget. I would massively raise the Department of Transportation and Department of Education budget, obviously.
While I agree, I 100% agree with your plan, Henry.
Make
I
socialism
slightly
universal
disagree.
healthcare.
Yes, I can agree to that.
Slightly disagree. And let me explain why. So I see what you're saying about cutting this and expanding that to get a better healthcare system in America. But personally, I would not touch taxes on corporate, because if we were to ever have issues with China, the way we'd bring companies back to America is we would lower corporate tax so that American companies would have competition to come back to America. So if we raise it, it's just giving more incentive for companies to go to these other countries to produce their own cheaper.
I can understand what you mean. So, what I would do to solve this would, so if companies wish to leave to go to other nations, I would make it so that tariffs would be put on specific goods that leave the nation. Because America is a massive consumer base, and if a company's going to go somewhere else, they are going to go to a poor, underdeveloped region. So, unless they go to another economically wealthy nation, like let's say Germany, which also has huge corporate income taxes, they're not going to be doing much better there. And all this without a carbon tax too, which most of the EU and NATO has. So if someone goes outside of NAFTA or the EU or Sweden or Norway,
Yeah.
then put tariffs on them. That makes it extraordinarily expensive for them to sell their goods in the United States, which it further lowers the incentive for them to leave the United States, all while having the matter of the fact is the United States is just naturally richer than like Europe and stuff, like on a per capita
Well, yeah,
basis.
I mean,
So we don't need to levy the same like absurd taxes on our citizenry to pay for all this cool stuff as European nations would. Like England's tax has like 4 tax brackets, and the maximum's like 66%. Like that's nuts. Like that's way too high. Like the highest tax bracket I'd have is maybe 35-40%, and that'd be people making like 10 million plus a year.
which I think keeping taxes low is what keeps the economy somewhat running. But the issue is because you have lower taxes, you have less spending. So obviously, like you said, if you lower some things to get a better,
Well,
different.
so do you want to know what people necessarily aren't getting, aren't like investing, aren't spending money, and aren't driving the economy? It's people that like break their leg by like trying to repair their damn roof, and then they have like a $45,000 medical fee, and they spend the next 25 years of their life trying to pay that shit off. Like those people are not helping the economy at all. They're just throwing money into like a big into a big banks, so that way the CEO of the bank can just throw that money into like the Cayman Islands, and it leaves the nation because that person is not driving the economy. Now, the people that are driving the economy would be the middle and lower class. Because if we nationalize it, then they can spend more money on like going to the local store, and because that local store ideally wouldn't be a giant like conglomerate, that local store would have to buy it from like a local fisherman, local farm, local whatever. That money circulates and revitalizes the economy.
True, but this next subject is a little off topic, but kind of goes with it. But with a lot of major Democrats pushing for a $15 minimum wage or a $25 minimum wage, these people in the middle class that are making salary wages aren't getting increases due to the fact that they're on salary, they're not making a minimum wage. So all these people in the middle class are moving down, which is not, it's creating a divide from
Lowering the middle
rich
class a
to
little
poor.
bit means raising the lower class a lot. That's a sacrifice I'm more than willing to make.
True, but it wouldn't raise lower class into middle class. It would just raise middle class combined into lower class to be lower class.
Here's what we do. We also greatly lowered the upper class because if you look at there was a study done about what percentage of the wealth that each like group of the nation has. The top 1%, first of all, you've heard lefties like me say this, I shut fucked on, but it's true. It's not good. The top 1% holds like about 30% of the wealth, which is nuts. Like that number via a wealth tax, higher corporate tax, like CEO tax, whatever you want to call it, that number needs to be lowered substantially. And I think the best way will also be via a property and a wealth tax, because a wealth tax wouldn't necessarily affect poor people at all. However, if you bracketized it or marginalized it, so that way the upper class paid a load of that, and then you spent that money on making it easier for poor people and middle class people to gain wealth via not having to spend all their money paying off a loan to a college or a hospital or bank, whatever. That would make the lower middle class richer by not having to pay off a massive loan to some conglomerate, and that would make the upper class poorer, which is, I mean, who gives a shit, you know? Which, I mean, ideally everyone would be getting richer, but like to make that sacrifice is something I'm more than willing to do.
You see, I can see maybe with people who get wealth by just sitting there and money being handed to them, but I think I personally disagree with people who work for their money. I think that if you work and earn your money, you shouldn't have to pay this extra and all this extra for money you worked for, because a lot of these major companies, they started in a garage. I mean, Microsoft, for example, started in Bill Gates' garage.
Microsoft, when it was tiny, wouldn't be eligible for a massive wealth tax. Microsoft now, what Bill Gates does, I mean, like I don't know about Microsoft specifically, but for Tesla, I know I've read on this. Elon Musk doesn't actually do a ton anymore. Like he just points in a direction. Like he's a team of engineers actually doing everything.
True, but on more of like the Bill Gates.
Well,
Bill
it's
Gates
been an
does still
honor. I unfortunately have to go, so I'll see y'all in the next episode. Actually, my first episode of the Nautical will be airing tomorrow night. So tune in. Me and Otto Wright will be the hosts for it, and we hope to.
What time is it? It's coming up, by the way.
11.
I believe it was going to be 7 o'clock EST.
So I'll be there.
It looks like it will be 7 to 8:30 tomorrow.
I'll be there. Based. Okay. Well, that wraps up my spiel on what I would do in regards to taxes, healthcare, education, and the Department of Defense. How about you, Josh? If you were the dictator of the United States, what would you do?
I mean, there's a vast amount of things that obviously we disagree on, and I think that's very clear. But to the same extent, I think me and you, when we're working together on something, we find a compromise to make a middle ground. I mean, you know what my stance on most things are, just like I know what your stance is on most things. So I think, yes, we may be able to debate it here and there, but I think when it comes down to actually doing it, something decent will be found for the bill to be passed through. Kind of off topic, but I think changes should be made to the spending bill, but I just don't know how drastic they should be.
I think with Eric Scott, with you mean like the real iPhone or the one in the Sim?
I'm talking about the one in Sim.
One in Sim. I think I have it pulled up right now. I don't like what.
I think it just failed.
Yeah, it failed the Senate XD. But for different regions, I think you and Rome voted no, because presumably the DoD spending went down a lot. I didn't actually look that far.
Yes, it did go down 300 billion, I think.
Let me check. Was the DoD spending? DoD
I think
spending
it was 800.
was
800 billion.
800 billion. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Billianti and I voted no for a completely different reason, which was Social Security.
All right. I think for me personally, I didn't really notice Social Security. I also don't remember right offhand what it was yesterday, though, or last spending.
Okay. Well, those are my stuffs on things. I'm gonna go to bed. It's 11:06. It's been an honor
All
being
right.
a guest on the show, on the Shapiro show. Kind of spoke just a wee bit.
Just a
Yep.
little bit, yeah.
Bye.
All right. Well, have a good one. Okay. Well, that's all for the Shapiro show tonight. Shortly I'll be sitting down with Anthony Walensky on different issues, and if you want to stay, start in about 5-ish minutes. Till then, everyone, good night.